Welcome to the replay, everybody. Um, Today, I'm going to be talking about why information hoarding is a problem. I'm going to be talking about what it is and what you can do to avoid it. And so, if you are catching me on the replay, feel free to ask questions because I'll be returning to the streams, to the broadcast or the post, so that I can answer your questions if you have any after. So, it's my first time on LinkedIn Live. As many of you know, I did a weekly show before the pandemic. I was very consistent, and then I did a few shows during, but it's really difficult with everybody home, and so it was just a matter of we're going to do it. Kept saying that, and then LinkedIn approved me for live. So that's a little kick that I needed. So what is information hoarding? Information, I always used to say that I never worked with hoarders until I was speaking with Matt Paxton. He was talking about hoarders, and he said, you work with people's paper and their digital information, and you live in the Northeast. He said, I guarantee you work with information hoarders. And I was like, wow, I never really thought of it that way. So some people will think of information hoarders. Hello, Gary, and hello, Loretta. Some people will think of information hoarding as like looking back before the digital, when people would just have thousands of books, piles and piles, and they couldn't walk through them, or they would have newspapers for 40 years worth just stacked, or magazines and all of that. And so that is a piece of it, and some people still have that stuff. And now we're in a combination of we're adding in the digital hoarding information. So that could be 1,000,001 downloads on your computer, saving all of your pictures from personal and business, and just having everything kind of all in your computer, maybe organized, maybe not. But even if it is organized, I can tell you that it can cause problems, and I will be talking about that. So again, also, if you're like me and you love notebooks and you love to take notes, um, that's a piece of information hoarding too, because we're constantly learning and writing things down and then not processing them. So that can really be part of the issue. You're guilty as a hoarder. You love to learn. I am too. So 100%. I had a lot of information. I still have some, but I've been really working towards paring it down. So what does it do to us? Well, first of all, if it's physical, if you have 1,000,001 books, and I'm not telling you to get rid of your books, because I have a lot of friends who love their books and they make them happy, and they're not in their way per se. They're not causing a fire hazard. They're put in their places where they need to be, and they love them, and they make them happy. But a lot of us will have books kicking around, and I'm guilty of this, that we want to read, and we never around to it. So what does that do? That affects our brain. We don't realize it, but it's like an unfinished project, an open loop. And the more of those that we have, the 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 worse it does for our brain. It prevents us from like kind of moving forward and having a clear mind to do things. So that's downloading everybody's checklists and PDFs, and maybe, and I'm actually doing a free class tomorrow, and I'm purposely not doing a replay for it, because how many times do you sign up for a webinar and say you're going to watch a replay and you never do? So you just kind of, all those just open loops. um, and then the notebooks. Notebooks will tend to have notes from when you're learning, right? So you're like, oh, that's a great idea, and you write it down. And then if you forget about it, it's just kind of sitting there floating out in space. Or you'll have ideas that are, that's a really great idea, and you'll collect all these ideas, and it's you're not finishing them. So you kind of, you may not be aware of it, but it is there that you're thinking, wow, I haven't done that, and I haven't done that, and I haven't done that. And good morning, Joyce from San Francisco. How's the weather there? It's kind of dreary here, but it's nice and cool. So, and I'm not saying, everybody has to get rid of all their information. We love information. But I really want people to be mindful of, so if it's in digital format, be mindful of that, because it's out of sight, out of mind, right? Unless, of course, you're opening up your desktop and you have, a bunch of files on there. A lot of people are guilty of that. But it's really not it's really not out of your mind. It's in the back of your mind, and it's causing. So letting go. So I definitely recommend chipping away at that stuff. So let's say, so I myself have just recently, finally, gotten rid of 95% of my paper, which I never thought I would do. I'm a paper person. Like I said, notebooks, right? So I had all of these, I had so much stuff. It was all organized, it wasn't in my way. But once I got rid of it, I realized how much it was weighing me down. And what forced me to do it is the prospect of having to move it all. We've been in this home for 22 years. So it really was just there, right? And I'm very good about clearing it out year to year. But there was still a lot of stuff being held on to. So I really sat down with myself and went through it and I just chipped away at it. And I thought about what did you just say my live got dropped? Was live and got dropped. Oh no, am I still live? Ooh, that's not good. Well, I'm just going to keep going because there'll be a recording of this. Um, so I was able to do that. And I only kept a very small amount of paper. I still have to go through the rest of it. Some stuff we have to keep. I mean, we can't get rid of passports and birth certificates and all of that. And really important papers that I don't really want to scan. Guilty of paper and digital. Yeah. Unfortunately, I had cleaned out my digital prior to doing this, which is something I'll talk about in a second. So when I was going through this process of getting rid of as much as I could, um, I was very mindful about not taking it all and scanning it and putting it into digital. There were some things that I needed to keep or I wanted to keep for memorabilia. And so I did do that. And I'll talk about how I did that. So I had already cleared out my digital, or I'm pretty much good about going through that, except for my photos. I'm still chipping away at those to get rid of them. Not get rid of them all, but pare them down because we're all guilty of having a lot of photos. Some of us more than others. I mean, I've heard some people say they have like 500,000 photos out there, and it gives me a little bit of anxiety. But and also, I should mention too that email is a big piece of information hoarding. People feel the need to hold on to every single email that they've ever received, and it's easier for us to do that now, right? Because there's a lot of space, but there is going to come a time where you're going to have to start paying for that space, and maybe you're already there, but um, just knowing it's all out there, and if you can archive it, it's fine. Kind of tuck it away. That's okay. But um, as long as you can search for it, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many people are like, "Well, I searched for this email. I know I have it. I searched for it." So it's about setting up systems in that way. So um, digital and paper. I just lost my train of thought. The last thing I want to talk about is notebooks. So if you're like me and you love to take notes, maybe you have sticky notes like me all over the place. I tend to what I do now is anything that's super important that I need to remember, I write it on a sticky note. And then anything, if I'm just taking notes, I write stuff in notebooks. But I'm really good now about going through those. For me, it's once a week. You can set any time frame, that you want. It could be once a month. It could be, at the end of each day. Maybe you're going to go through, and I actually reread through, and I think about what I wrote down, and if I'm going to need that in the future, I will usually put it on a note on my computer, or I will pull it out and I'll file it in like I have a binder with ideas that I keep, and I try to make sure I go through that because you want to make sure that you're not just tucking things away and not revisiting them. You want to be looking at your information and making sure that everything you're holding on to is purposeful, because like I said, those open loops really can affect us in more ways than we even realize. A lot of times people, when I say, okay, we're going to attack the digital, go in and start purging, they get really, really overwhelmed, because paper has different emotions with it. Sometimes people don't realize that there can be a lot of emotion with paper, whether it's from, maybe an estate from someone, or it's memorabilia from family members, or just from your life, or it is, again, those things that you really want to do, but you're just not doing them. So with that stuff, this is what I recommend. If you got a lot of ideas out there that you want to do, pull a couple out and just act on them. And the ones that you want to do someday or you just don't want to let go of, maybe put them in a box label it, and just tuck it away. So you still have it, but you know that it's something that you can revisit in the future. And it's not like, oh, I should get to that. I should get to that. It's there, or you could just let it go. I've known people to do that, which has been very liberating for them. So hopefully I am still live. It looks like I am. Again, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'm on YouTube, but I think I'm going to switch that to Twitter next time because I do love Periscope and Twitter. Okay, so what can you do to move forward? You want to work on reducing as much as you possibly can. But before you even do that, you want to take an inventory of all of your kind of information that you're holding on to, whether it's, in physical form, whether it's books, magazines, articles, just general paper, could be even coupons, right? I mean, a lot of people just, they're like, oh, I'm going to need this coupon, and then they never use them. And then, digitally, what do you have out there? What kind of services do you have out there? Do you have Google Drive? Do you have Dropbox? Do you have stuff on a hard drive? Do you have a bunch of stuff on your computer? Do you have, stuff just wherever it is? Maybe even old thumb drives and floppy disks, right? I mean, it's crazy, but we still find those, and I still have some stuff. Just do an inventory and kind of really take stock of what you have and what you've been holding on to, and why, and think about why. And then, start to reduce what's coming in. Next time you go to bookmark an article or save something, think, am I really going to revisit this? Am I really going to use this? And this will take time. And, certainly you're going to still be bringing things in over time. I mean, it's not an easy habit to break. And then start working on reducing as much as you possibly can. So I know I got when I got the email from LinkedIn, there was a bunch of rules, which I actually love. They only allow you to go live once a day, which is really good. And they want you to go for at least 10 minutes. And I was like, oh gosh, can I make it to 10 minutes? And yes, I'm a chatty one, so I did. So thumb drives, yes. Guilty. I'm guilty. So just, and when when you chip away at these things, going through, just do your thumb drives one day, or do one thumb drive a day, and then move on to the next thing. And as you're getting rid of things, this is where people will really get tripped up. And I'm actually doing a free class tomorrow on this whole thing, and I'll put it in the link. People get tripped up with digital a lot because they tend to have multiple copies of multiple things in multiple places and multiple versions. And that really, it confuses the brain. So step one is just to delete. So if you're deleting stuff from a thumb drive and you have it in 4 other places, don't worry about those 4 other places until you get to them, because your brain will stop and then you'll think and you'll go. And the other thing is, as you're deleting things, don't worry about moving them and thinking about where they're going to go and how they're going to be organized. Because once you've deleted everything, you're going to have a better picture of what you need and what you're going to continue to hold on to. And that's when you can create systems. So thank you so much for joining. It's great. I have my contacts in so that I didn't wear glasses and have a glare, but I can see that I can see who's coming from LinkedIn and who's coming from Facebook, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm going to pop the link into my free class tomorrow. Some of you may have heard my Facebook ads fiasco. I was running ads. I've decided to do this class, rolling again. I was running ads for 5 days, doing all the things right, making sure the algorithm was doing its thing. I got the audiences perfect. So I said, all right, I'm ready to up the budget so that I can get some people into my class. And boom, they pulled the ad. They rejected it. They said the language wasn't right. I'm like, would have been really helpful if you told me that a bunch of money ago and a bunch of days ago. So it's going to be a small class. So, well, it is right now. Maybe we'll get a bunch more people in there, which would be awesome. But regardless, free, and I'm going to put it in the link. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'm very excited to get back to LinkedIn. Oh, and one thing I'll mention, because got to keep talking, right? I do these shows weekly, and these are questions that people ask me. Very common questions. If you have a question that you want to ask me or a topic that you want me to talk about, I've talked about a bunch of things in the past, but I'm happy to revisit them. Um, just let me know. Did I mention Evernote? I did a whole thing on Evernote, but I think I'm going to do another one because it's one of my favorite tools for keeping your information kind of somewhat organized. I think it's Steve Dotto says it's like his external brain, right? It's just like a brain place. It's like a bank deposit, information deposit, like a bank, which is really cool because it's really easy to find stuff, and you don't feel like it's on your like personal stuff. Anyways, have an awesome day, and I'll see you next week. Again, if you have any topics you want me to talk about, just let me know. Bye.